Let me see. There was a little bit of news today. I saw that the quarterback from Ohio State, Baldwin, put in a transfer portal. Dumbass.
Fields has affected 3 quarterbacks' decisions. Haskins left, Martell left, and now that guy left.
Damn, it's crazy. Like,
it's just going to keep going too. It's just going to get worse, I think.
I don't think Haskins would have left.
You don't
really?
No.
I think he probably still would have, but
I just think he loves Ohio State too much.
Who the hell would like that school? Ugh.
Yeah, right.
Well, I didn't graduate from there or anything, but it's fine.
Oh,
Shane,
you did?
I did. Yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah. I went down to
Shane. You are off the show. Bye. You live out in Pittsburgh, don't you, Shane? Or
I do. Born, raised, living. So
where at in Pittsburgh?
I'm in the South Hills.
Gotcha.
So I'm a high school teacher. Actually, yeah, I teach social studies. I direct and produce the musicals at the school that I work at.
What school?
Cats. Keystone Oaks High School.
Okay. Just because I think it was Penn Hills was in the news yesterday because they're implementing the electronic hall pass and everyone's freaking out about it.
Yeah. They're in a ton of shit as it is.
I think, and there was another school that's like 175 million in debt or something.
Oh no, that's Penn Hills.
Okay, it's the same school.
same school. Just
wow.
Yeah, I don't know how that happens.
Yeah, they built a new school and the superintendent was stealing money and the state's like taking it over. It's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, they had a bunch of big wigs at a press conference.
I'm from.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. How far do you live from Pittsburgh, Andrew?
I was just gonna say I'm about an hour and a half north. If you go up 79 to Grove City,
yeah,
get off and go about 45 minutes on 80. I live in Clarion.
Oh yeah, well I've been up to Clarion.
Oh well, then there,
yeah. So cool.
Nice. I can't believe you're Ohio State. Ugh.
I know. I was not told this, Dwight. Otherwise, I would not have agreed.
Well, I didn't tell him so that I could get on. It was too late now.
Are you a Steelers fan then, or a Browns fan?
Steelers, yeah.
What the hell? You're ass backwards like me. I'm a Browns fan, and I deal with all.
And I'm a Bengals.
Oh gosh, jeez Louise. Got the triangle going right here.
Yeah, there's no Ravens fans because nobody likes them. So
right.
They're not smart enough to be on a podcast. I don't think.
That's funny.
One thing we can all agree on, I think, Ravens suck. Oh man, that's funny. All right, you guys ready, man? I seriously tweaked my rankings, tweaked them.
Yeah,
like this is a lot harder than I thought it would be.
Things like I'm like, oh man, I don't know.
I mean, does anybody have an inkling for first? I mean, I'm pretty sure it's Saquon, right?
I think it's pretty easy.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would go any different than that. I mean, but
he's like number one in Dynasty as it is. Like,
yeah. Actually, we'll just kind of throw that out and we'll start the draft at 2.
Sure.
Because I mean, it's like a shoe-in number 1. I mean, yeah, he's like you said, he's overall number 1. I've even seen him number 1 in Superflex leagues. So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious. I actually have the 101 in a Heisman campus, a Heisman to Canton type league, with Devy and all that. So,
oh yeah,
and yeah, I'll probably take him just because I don't own him hardly anywhere. He's too expensive to get. So,
right. So, might as well have him somewhere.
So I can write this down. What's the order? Because I don't want to get lost. I won't get lost.
Yeah, we'll do our guest first.
Why?
You don't have to.
No, you're good, Shane. I just have to bitch to keep Dwight on his toes.
We'll go Shane, Andrew, then me. Okay. That way I probably will not get ETN.
If we were going based on how our teams are going to finish in the AFC North this year, I would be first, just so we're all clear.
Oh, Lord.
It's like a 2-0 the last time that happened.
Boy, they're getting cocky all of a sudden.
That's usually how it goes, right? And then,
I would be too. I mean,
PTI today was like, I don't know why the NFL gave them primetime games because they don't deserve it and they haven't proved anything. I was like, yeah, I get it. But when you have Baker and OBJ and all these names, you're going to get primetime.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, rightfully so.
Like I actually messaged Andrew and said, I want to go to a Browns game because I do. I haven't wanted to in years, and I actually want to go to a Browns game.
I've only been to one in Heinz Field, and I will not do that again. And I was only 12 when I went through that.
Yeah, and that's probably not a good idea. I went to a Ravens game in Baltimore. That was also a bad idea.
Yeah, I wouldn't go to Baltimore for anything.
Yeah, I taught in Southern Maryland for a year, and so my buddy and I took a trip 2 hours north of Baltimore for Ravens Steelers. Dennis Dixon was our starting quarterback at that point.
Oh,
and
Smokes.
yeah, we went to overtime and lost, but we almost got killed.
Dennis Dixon.
We paid like $40 for parking. The guy parked us illegally, and we got a ticket for like $130. It was crazy.
Solid.
Yeah.
All right. You guys ready to rock and roll?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'd like to welcome everybody. This is Devy Owner's Manual, episode 14, your source of knowledge for Devy strategy and Devy players in the fantasy football landscape. Right now, obviously, we're focusing on the draft and mock drafts and things. But right now, before we get started, a special thank you to Chris Allen, who you can find at Twitter at Chris Allen FFWX, and Adam Wilde at AP Wilde of the Dynasty Owners Manual for having us on their podcast network. And actually now we are under the DLF podcast network. It's, I think, our first one recording since we got under that umbrella. So
it's all our draft season.
We're DLF. Yay. Anyways, first I'm going to introduce my awesome co-host, Mr. Andrew Harbaugh.
How you doing, Dwight? We're a week away from no more mock drafts. I'm sure you're excited.
Yeah, as we're recording this, we are within a week, actually. So
a week from today, we'll know officially how I'm going to be a Cardinal.
Because I'm a sucker and I like to read and stuff. I've read so many mock drafts, so many insiders' tips to this team, what all 32 teams are going to do. And I'm just like, dude, I'm ready for it to be over at this point. I just keep reading it and I just keep ingesting it and listening to more podcasts because that's what I do. And so I don't know. And this week we also have a special guest. I'm going to introduce Shane. Is that Hallam? I should have asked that before I got on the air.
No, you got it. You nailed it. You're good.
All right. Shane Hallam, who's a writer at fakepigskin.com and draftsite.com. Plus, I know him from this crazy ass Devy league that we're in, that we're now currently over 1,000 Devy players deep. So Shane, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited. Yeah, it's draft season's fun. You just hate to read those mocks, but you just keep having to read them. I don't know. There's nothing better. But up at draft site, actually, I've done a 7-round 2020 mock that's up. That's going to be coming up in 1-round 2021. So I'm already well past this year's draft.
Right. Almost.
Okay, we can put the expletive warning on this. No shit, Shane. I just read that whole thing yesterday. I Googled 2020 mock just for the heck of it. That was the first thing that popped up.
Good. Well, yeah, I did rounds 3 through 7, so
okay,
good time.
Sweet.
Wow, that's crazy. That's awesome too. Shane and I are this league. We're drafting 2021 high school prospects, and it's crazy. So.
It's insane. It's my favorite so far. I love it. I like brag to people because it's insane and they think I'm nuts.
Yeah. So this week, a very, very little bit of news. Ohio State quarterback Matthew Baldwin has put his name into the transfer portal. Doesn't mean he necessarily will transfer, but it looks like he's not even really wanting to fight with Justin Fields. Probably wise. I don't think he'd beat him, but kind of surprised that Andrew said before the show that that Fields transferring has caused this great ripple there at Ohio State. So.
Yeah, no, I said we could debate Haskins staying or going, but Haskins is gone and Fields came in, and then Martell went to Miami, and now Baldwin's potentially leaving also. So, 3 quarterbacks really that have been impacted by one move.
Right now, Shane Baldwin, what was he? Was he a 4-star, or I don't even remember reading much about him, honestly.
Yeah, I think he was. I think he was a 3-star, maybe a 4-star in some places, but pro style. And he actually split time in the spring game with the number 1 team with Justin Fields. It wasn't like they threw Justin Fields out and declared him the starter even. So maybe that happened right post spring game, and this is what kind of kicked it off. But I was a little surprised because I don't know. I don't think he's the kind of guy that's going to slide in somewhere and just start anyway. So you might as well give it a shot. But I was a little surprised at it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he'll be shooting for like a smaller school, not a a big Power 5. Maybe he head out west to the Mountain West or something, or a smaller team like Rutgers or something like that. Where he will get a chance to play. So, yeah, why not? I mean, if you were thinking you were going to play and you're not gonna, you might as well. So, yeah, that's really all the news we have. I almost didn't even mention it because I think we got something a lot more fun this week. This is something I actually thought of, and it's funny because I hate mock drafts and I'm tired of them. So when Andrew's like, "You want to do a mock draft?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do a mock draft." So one of the things we get asked about that most of our questions, we didn't even ask for questions this week, Andrew. Most of our questions
It's draft week.
Yeah,
everything's a blur.
Right. Everybody's asking us, how does this year compare to last year? How does this year compare to next year? How do they rate this class of wide receivers, this class? Everybody wants us to compare. So I thought, what better way to do it than to do a 2-round mock draft of the prospects from 2018, 2019, and 2020. Now, some of these 2020 guys might not come out, but I think most of them that we're going to talk about will come out. So this mock draft will be all 3 of those classes together. We'll say it's non-super flex. If you guys want to throw in a little, I would have drafted this person if they were super flex, that's fine.
I'm sure Shane would agree, as you and I, Dwight, agree what 101 would be in a super flex.
No, not Baker Mayfield. Anyways, so we're going to start this pick now. It's a consensus agreement amongst all of us, and I don't think any fantasy player out there would disagree with that. The 101 amongst these 3 classes is Saquon Barkley. That's like a no-brainer. So we're not even going to start at 101. We're going to start at 102 because I don't think that's any bit of fun to waste somebody's pick on Saquon Barkley. We can talk about him till the cows come home or whatever you want to use there. So, Shane, being our guest, you're going to get the second pick. And who would you draft at 102 from the 2018, 19, and 20 classes?
I think 102 is a little bit tough because I think there's guys from the 2020 class that I really like that I think could really end up worth this pick. But I think you have to take Nick Chubb, the running back from the Browns here. Just the success that he had last season. I know people are getting scared away with Kareem Hunt and all that noise, but with Kareem Hunt being suspended, I think Nick Chubb's going to just continue to roll. I thought he was rolling last year, and his talent was off the charts pre that college injury. So yeah, if it was a super flex, then I think this is where Baker Mayfield goes. But instead, I'm going with the other Cleveland Brown. I consider some 2020 guys a running back and a receiver here, but ultimately, I think Chubb's kind of the safe bet. I think we know kind of where he stands, and even though people are getting a little scared he's going to share carries, I don't think it's going to happen. I think when the running backs coach becomes the head coach, it's a pretty safe bet that this guy's going to keep carrying the load. So I would take Chubb here and feel good. I think he's going in startups, second, third round. So right now, I think it's the safest bet.
Wow. I'm quite shocked, Shane. I really didn't expect that. I'm
not ready for that either with my pick.
I had Chubb down at 7.
I'll take it. That's fine.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, you can't argue with it, though. He was, like, before his injury, he was the next best thing. He was going to be right up there with Saquon. So, yeah, I don't deny it, and I'm sure Andrew loves it, too. Browns definitely gifted into a gift there by having him fall because of the injuries. So.
Yeah, and just to throw my Browns fan 2 cents in, they have Hunt, obviously, right now, but he's going to miss the 12 games, and he's on an extremely cheap deal. But if he comes back and shows that he's even a sliver of what he was, the Browns are going to start having, because they have John Dorsey as their GM, salary cap issues, and they've got to pay Baker, they've got to pay Myles Garrett, they're going to have to pay Njoku. They have Chubb on that rookie contract longer than they're going to have Hunt. So I think Hunt eventually is going to be out of the picture. So I'm okay with Chubb here at 2. And Chubb's obviously the future here, and you saw the chemistry and the way Freddie Kitchens has him going. So, no, I love the pick.
Nice little wrench there, Shane. All right, Andrew, that leaves you up at 3.
I think I'm going to pull the trigger, not on who you probably are thinking I'm going to say. It's going to be a wide receiver. It's going to be from 2020. I just love Jerry Jeudy. I think he's just going to be insane next year in the next level. I would take him over any of the wide receivers in this class, and I would take him really over anybody last year. I think he's going to come right into the thick of things and make an instant impact. The receivers from last year, Sutton, Moore, Ridley, you kind of got the flashes with the big touchdown games, but I think Jeudy can come in and be a 1 for a team, and he'll be able to outplay quarterbacks. I mean, you saw how he was with Jalen Hurts, and he's not the greatest quarterback, and now he's got a quarterback that can actually pass him the ball. He's just excelling even further. So I'm going to take Jerry Jeudy here at 3 from the 2020 receiver class.
Nice. What do you think about that, Shane?
I think it's great. Yeah, I definitely considered him at 2. He was the receiver I was considering. I do think he's going to be a stud. I think he'll end up going in the top 10 of that 2020 draft. His speed's going to be probably in the low 4.4s, high 4.3s. The production. And we've seen receivers, sometimes with Alabama, you get worried about the running backs, you get worried about the offensive linemen, but receivers is not a position where I feel like we have to really worry about, right? If someone's producing, then they better be damn good. So I love it. He was my top receiver by far.
Yep.
Nice. And I actually, for the Superflex fans, I actually had Baker at 3 is where I would take him amongst this. So that's my Superflex kick in there. But yeah, I can't argue with Jeudy there. That leaves you guys like, Andrew, how many times are you going to make me pick my buddy, dude?
I almost took your guy. And I was like, I'll let Dwight talk about him.
Travis Etienne, man. He's my 104. He actually was my 102. So I love him that much. I hope that he does develop a little bit of a pass catching game. That's the only thing that I hear is part of a detraction for him. I think it's there. I think he's got the talent. He's got hands. I like his vision, the way he breaks tackles, his balance. I just love everything about him. I've talked about him on too many episodes already, so that's all I can talk about him for this. So somebody else.
I think that this 2020 running back class is very good, and I think there's a lot of different ways you can go, and I think Etienne's right up there. Doing what he did on that national stage really helps, and doing it against a defense like Alabama I think really helps. But you watch some of those other games. I mean, even in the Notre Dame game before that, he was just dominated. So I'm excited to see what he does this year, because I feel like teams, especially after Trevor Lawrence kind of caught fire, I think teams kind of ignored him, and I don't think they're going to do that anymore. So I want to see how teams kind of react to him moving forward, and I think he's going to have a little tougher road this year. But there's no reason why he couldn't end up here and couldn't end up a top 15 pick in the 2020 draft.
Yeah, and Matt Miller, somebody asked him this week, same thing that we're kind of doing this mock for is, where are the running backs in next year's class matching up with this year's class? And Miller said ETN would be RB2. So, and he had another 2020 running back at RB1. So,
yeah, the one most people have.
Right.
And then I actually what do you guys think about this for a super flex? I actually had Tua going at 104. That's about where I would take him in a super flex. I think I like him that much. So I don't know what you guys think about that, but yeah, actually, or we can come back afterwards if you guys want and kind of talk about that. Might be a little easier than me doing that in between every pick. What do you think?
Yeah, we'll do the whole thing and then just chime in and be like, we would have Lawrence to
quarterbacks. Yeah. I like that better. I can kind of kick out that one then.
Yeah, Dwight.
All right, Shane, that puts you back on the clock at the 105.
Yeah, well, I'll take the running back I was considering at 2. I'll take Jonathan Taylor, the running back out of Wisconsin. I'm happy to get a 2,000-yard running back almost 2 years in a row at this point. And I think with Taylor, and I can understand, I think there's some people that are a little bit bullish on him, just because the production is incredibly insane, and you feel like, okay, that he's getting used a ton, right? The 307 carries this past year, almost 300 carries the year before. So I think there's some long-term fears there, but I'll take, especially when we're talking about like Devy, like I'll take the player and deal with the repercussions after that. Another player that pass catching, that's the big concern. I do think he's kind of Melvin Gordon-ish, right? Wisconsin has never really used their running backs in the passing game, and we saw Melvin Gordon in the NFL be a really great pass catcher. I think Taylor can do that too. I think his speed is underrated. I think he's going to be a low 4.4 guy. And so to me, I think he's just a slam dunk to be productive, to do something. This isn't Ron Dane, right? This isn't anyone like that. So I think Taylor is going to be productive. Maybe a shorter shelf life than some of these other backs in 2020 or even in 2018. But I'm happy getting him here.
I like it, Shane. That's different. Once again, I had him down the list a little bit too. What do you think about that, Andrew?
Yeah, no, I mean, like you were talking about that shelf life. That's something to always worry about. But like you said, I don't think it's going to be a Ron Dane situation. So, no, Taylor's deservedly so, I think, in the conversation here in the top 5. I got no qualms with it.
All right, Andrew, 106.
I'm going to keep this run on 2020 running backs going. I'm going to take DeAndre Swift. I'm kind of surprised he's there for me again, honestly. But at the same time, this class is so deep. I would have been just as happy with having Taylor here too, which I was expecting. Swift coming off 1,000 yards last year, over 30 catches, solid build, 5'9", 215. He struggled a little bit, I think, in the receiving game just because of Jake Fromm kind of getting a little bit erratic at times, but Swift at the next level is able to overcome that. So I'm excited to see what he can do in an NFL offense, especially the way the running back's being used now. I think Swift's going to be a lot of fun and going to be a fantastic fantasy value.
So Shane, what do you think about? I mean, you took Taylor over Swift. What do you see that you like more about Taylor than Swift?
I think Swift is the home run shot, right? And I have him, as the next running back after Taylor and Etienne right after that. So I have all three pretty close. We have them going all in the top 6. I think Swift is the home run shot. I still think there's a lot more I want to see out of his game in terms of kind of vision and the football intelligence aspect that I like a little bit more with Taylor. So that's something that I'm not wholly comfortable with yet, but very easily this year, that could be thrown away, and those concerns can be thrown away. So that's why I would be fine if Swift went at 2. I'd be fine if him going at 6, absolutely. I think it's an upside play. I think he could be one of those players that breaks out, ends up being a top 5 player in the 2020 class, draft itself. Or he could be a player that maybe has an injury or starts really slow, and we're talking about him, falling down like I imagine we're going to about another guy we'll take later. So I think it could go either way.
Right. I'm just excited that there's a Georgia running back until you just said the I word. Michelle had the knee issues, Chubb had the knee issues, and Gurley had the knee issues, and Swift really doesn't have anything too severe yet, and God forbid that happens. But it'll be nice to see, like you said, he could be a top 5 pick in the actual NFL draft. So it'll be a lot of fun to see what he does.
Right. Absolutely. Now I'm going to go at the 107. This is kind of the last 2020 guy that I consider the upper echelon that I would put behind Saquon. And for me, it's Laviska Shenault from Colorado. Another guy I've talked a lot about. I just love everything about his game. I think he's a complete receiver. He's got to get a little bit better at route running, but he's still really damn good. His hands, just amazing. He's another one of those guys. There's a couple of guys in college football right now that seem to have these ungodly hands, like him and Justin Ross, and I'm just really excited to see him on the next level. I think he can play in any offense, probably any position. I just love Laviska Shenault like a ton. I actually had him at 4 on this list, so he's my wide receiver 1 for next year. So what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I like it. He's definitely, I'm with you on that kind of end of that tier for these 2020 guys moving forward. I thought his season last year was phenomenal. It's really tough to kind of put into words when you watch him on film against against a Nebraska defense or against Washington State last year, just like catching everything, ton of receptions, dominating deep, running a ton of routes. Which is something I like about him a lot is already as a sophomore, he has a well-developed route tree, which you barely see out of guys that are seniors. So not only that, I know sometimes Colorado people are a little weary, but at 6'2", 220, he's a big dude with speed that can catch. I think it's hard to put him down, and I feel like it's the Colorado element that sometimes I kind of step back on, like why I didn't have him at 4, but I probably should. He probably should because he probably is that good.
Right. I thought it was kind of interesting of note how quickly he came on the scene. Like he didn't even make our big Devy league of 800 players last year. He didn't even make the team. And then this year in our supplemental draft, he was the second one taken. So he kind of came on the scene. A guy who wasn't highly recruited or anything, but man, so much to love when you watch him. Anything else? Andrew, you got anything on LaVisca?
Yeah, I tweeted out the other day a video. I was watching him versus Nebraska, which obviously is nothing too great, but it's like playing the Oklahoma defense. But Montez threw a well-placed ball, and it was a gutsy throw at that. But out of the double coverage, Chenault, you just see these fingertips reach for the ball, and he brings it in. Like it shouldn't have been caught, but he caught it. It's just I was in shock. Like I was feeding my son, and I let out a wow and startled him. But hey, he'll get used to it.
Used to daddy being enamored by football players.
Yes.
All right. So now I think this is when it gets kind of crazy. This is when I want to really see what you guys do. Shane, who do you got at 108?
Well, yeah, this is tough because I think there are a number of different ways to go. Once again, I think I'm going to play it a little bit safe here, and I'm going to take Sonny Michel from the Patriots here. I think what we saw in the Super Bowl and the playoffs really led me to feel Sonny Michel's a little bit different, right? He's a little bit better than your typical Patriots running back, and there's always some fear that they're just going to use a ton of guys, and I feel like Michel has kind of proved himself to be a main running back for them. So I think you draft him. He's someone now that you can plug and play that's going to get the touchdowns for that team, still getting receptions. So even with the injury issues kind of aside, it's a little bit scary, but I think he's the safest pick here to continue to produce for a handful of years. So I'm happy to get him at 8 and feel like I have kind of a solid running back base there.
Right. Yeah, he's a guy that I'm struggling to come around on still. Like you said, Patriots thing. But he looked really good toward the end of last year. And if you'd have to think that they're going to start running more and relying on the run more. Because, I mean, I know Brady still looks superhuman, but at the same time, he is, 41 now? So it's going to start happening whether he likes it or not, the decline of the arm. And I think they'll start relying on that run game more. And I liked what I saw out of him, but the injury concerns are kind of what put him down the list for me.
Yeah, my whole thing with Michel, like you said, is just that running back by committee approach that the Patriots always use. Like I still have James White in a lot of leagues, and I feel comfortable with James White so far at this point. But that playoff run by Michel, like you said, Shane, made me a little bit weary of it. But it's tough to commit until we see it. So he's right. That horrible ex-girlfriend that you want to fall in love with, but she keeps breaking your heart. I just want him to be the bell cow.
Gotcha. Yeah. I don't think bell cow's in Belichick's. Like
I know that's the problem.
It's not in most teams. Let's be honest. Most teams aren't
anymore. Yeah. All right, Andrew, you're up at 109.
Yeah, I know. It's a debate between two of them.
Trade down? No, I'm just kidding.
I wish. I think I'm going to go out on a limb with this pick. It's somebody we haven't seen anything from, but he's been all over social media posting that he's coming back stronger than ever. I think I'm going to take Darius Geis. I think with Washington either having, God forbid, Colt McCoy at quarterback, as somebody in our Stick to Football Hall of Fame chat said, the king of the check down. Even with that in mind, I think him with Geis is going to be nice. And then if not, you have a rookie or Josh Rosen. Young quarterback's best friend is going to be the running game, and I think Geis will be able to handle the workload. ACL injuries aren't what they used to be as well. So I think Geis will bounce back well, and he'll be potentially a top 10 fantasy running back next year in the perfect circumstances.
Right, because I believe he's still only 21. I mean, that's crazy. Like, so even if he takes a year to get back, he's still only 22. So like, I don't think they're going to be in a rush to bring him back, especially with the uncertainty of that whole offense not having any wide receivers at all.
And he kind of got the Miles Sanders treatment too, because he was behind Fournette at LSU, so he doesn't have a lot of the wear and tear like Fournette did coming into the league.
Great. Shane, you got anything to add on Geis?
I think it's a good pick. Like you said, it's almost like you're taking a guy from the 2019 or 2020 draft, right? It's like we don't know. We've seen him in college. We don't know what he's going to do in the NFL. And I like it. I wish I'm a little scared about Washington, but I just think they're a dumpster fire. So other than that, Geis extremely talented, and I was a big fan of his coming out. So I think he is going to kick it back and be good. I'm drafting him in a lot of redraft leagues and things like that. So I'm with you. I think it's a good pick.
Great. This is 110 now. I struggled. I wanted to go wide receiver, but I still don't. This class I don't love as much, but I'm going to go ahead and go with N'Keal Harry here. He's still, I think, my wide receiver one coming out of this class. I say that because I don't know. It switches from day to day. Like today's Thursday, N'Keal Harry is my wide receiver one. I think Fridays it's Debo. Saturday it's AJ Brown. Yeah, so it rotates. So today it'll be N'Keal Harry. I still really, really like the talent. I think he's very developed receiver, and I think it scares me. You keep seeing him mocked to the Ravens, which scares the bejesus out of me.
Yeah, his value.
Any wide receiver that goes there, I think it's just toast. But I still love N'Keal Harry. I love the catches that he makes. I know he doesn't get the separation that you want, but I still think he's going to be a great wide receiver in the NFL. So I'll stick with N'Keal Harry at 110.
I'm interested to see where he ends up. Like, I just really want to see because I think that's what's going to matter. I don't think he is one of those players, and I don't think there's a fantasy player in this draft that is team proof. That put him anywhere, this guy's a stud, right? And I don't think N'Keal Harry is that guy either. I think a lot of what he did was post catch on the screenplays, dynamic. Like you said, he made some amazing catches. If all that stuff translates and you put him in a position to win, then I think it turns out to be a really good pick. I'm just really scared of where he's going to end up if a team's going to use him correctly. And I think if you don't put him in the right position, I don't think you can just kind of throw him out there and have him win. And I don't think there's anyone in this class that does that. And once again, why we're doing this, right? So I think people out there can see and N'Keal Harry is going at 10. It's the first player from this class that we're drafting. And and I think, and like you said, I think you could have went a number of different ways. So
exactly, it was a tough one for me, and I almost went another 2020 guy. And I still don't love the wide receivers that came out last year either. So yeah, so Shane, that puts you on the clock at 111.
I'm going to project a little bit, and I'm going to take Cam Akers, the running back from Florida State, and he had a terrible year last year. It was really bad.
Florida State had a terrible year, though, to be fair.
Yeah. I mean, Florida State was it was so bad, but in our giant Devy league, I took him second overall last year after Saquon Barkley. I thought after his freshman year. And I still think this guy can be a stud in all aspects of the game. I think he has that short area quickness. He maybe doesn't have a long speed, but you still watch him explode to the hole. And last year, man, those holes closed fast. I thought his vision took a step back. The one thing I did like is I thought as a receiver, he developed and got better. And so to me, I thought it was one of the holes in his game as a freshman that got better as a sophomore. I think Florida State's going to be better, and I'd rather kind of secure him here as a talent and hope it comes through. Maybe he's a player, maybe it doesn't come through. Maybe he's a player in the NFL draft, goes in the 4th round or the 5th round and outperforms that draft stock, and I think still becomes a valuable player in fantasy down the line.
Right. He's one that I struggled with in this exercise because of his last year. He kind of got forgotten as I was going through all these names and shuffling them around and stuff. I kept pushing him down. and it's not fair to him because he's got the talent. So, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and just to add too, with Florida State being the dumpster fire they were last year. First year as a new coach, kind of still figuring things out. Akers is going to be a weapon in that offense, and I think with losing Francois, they're definitely going to rely on the run game a lot more. And also, too, when Francois got dismissed from the school and I did my little article on it, and I reached out to a couple people that I know have interacted with the Florida State staff and they said the team got better when he left. So I think we'll see the real Cam Akers next year. So I like this pick there, honestly, at 11. That's a pretty good value for him.
Great. Andrew, who do you got at 112?
Quit pressuring me, Dwight.
Don't make me sing.
Yeah, we don't want that. I'll make a pick. I'll stop. I'm projecting here as well. I'm going to use mock drafts and stuff we've been seeing. If DK Metcalf goes to Green Bay, I think him at the back end of the first round would be fantastic here. So I'm going to go with DK Metcalf. I think if he goes to somewhere like a Green Bay, if he goes anywhere but Green Bay, honestly, in the first round, I'm really scared. But if he goes to Green Bay, he won't have the pressure to, like, say, if he goes to Tennessee has Corey Davis, but we can discuss him at a later time. Go to like a Tennessee, Corey Davis, we could talk about. I see you smiling. And then Baltimore, like you talked about, being the desolate wasteland for receivers this year. So I think if one of them can get to Green Bay, and the one I see getting mocked to Green Bay is DK Metcalf, I would love to see him opposite Devontae Adams and having Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball.
Right. And you poo-pooed it when we went through the division, but I still think Indianapolis would be a good spot for him too. So, Shane?
That just doesn't seem like a Chris Ballard pick to me, is all.
Probably, yeah. Probably right. Shane, what do you think of DK? Curious.
I think you guys like this class more than I do even. Like, he didn't make my list. He didn't make my top 24.
He's not my wide receiver one either. My wide receiver one, I'm thinking I should be able to get decently later.
Yeah. I probably won't take them. And this receiver class is good. Like, they're good, but once again, I think as you kind of said, it depends on that situation. I don't think DK Metcalf is going to come out and dominate, and he's going to need a quarterback that can throw the ball down the field and a team that's going to run plays for him or get him the ball in space. And if you expect him to do more than that, like, I think he might be a better NFL player than fantasy player. And I'm really scared. So he didn't make my list.
Nice.
Yeah, this 2019 receiver class, like everybody in this class, me and Dwight have talked about, this is the landing spot draft where literally, I mean, we've done rookie drafts now, but you could have someone you could take it in the top half of the first round, and depending on landing spot, they could drop the whole way to a second or a third round pick. So it's pretty interesting. I just think with Metcalf, like you said, it has to be a team that's going to work with him. It's almost like they're drafting a quarterback to work with his skill set. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes.
Right. All right. I'm going to lead off the second round. This, another projection pick. When I was watching N'Keal Harry, I absolutely fell in love with Eno Benjamin. So I'm going to take him as my first pick in the second round. I'd like to see more of him this year. I'd be curious to see that offense should become a little less versatile now that N'Keal's gone. So they're probably going to make Eno even more of the focal point, which I love in a way. I really like a lot of things I saw about him. His vision, his speed, his cuts. He looked like a really good complete back. He caught passes. So he's just a guy that I really love. I expect him to take a huge step forward this year. I feel like he's kind of in the shadow of the Swift and the ETN and Akers and, JK and Jonathan Taylor. But I think he could be right up there in the top three of all those guys. I absolutely love what I saw from him. I'm curious what you guys think of him.
I obviously like him a lot. In our big Devy league, I took him in round 8 last year, and was kind of hoping for this kind of year from him because I think he flashed that talent as a rookie, as a freshman, but you never really saw him put it together. And I think it's one benefit of Arizona State. And I think that offense ran well. I think it's something that Herm Edwards did really well, was knowing how to use really skill position players. And Benjamin is a big cause of that. So I didn't even expect him to be be as good as he was. I think it's a great pick, 13 overall.
Yeah, when you said, Dwight, that when you were watching N'Keal Harry, you kept noticing someone, I thought you were going to say Emmanuel Manning, their quarterback. So I'm glad you took Benjamin, though.
No, I don't think I'd be qualified to say anything on a podcast if I said that. So, all right, Shane, that leaves you at the pick 202.
I'm finally take a receiver, I guess, after going all running backs in the first round. I do have a receiver at the top of my list. I'm going to take Tylan Wallace, the receiver from Oklahoma State, another kind of 1-year wonder, if you will, as a sophomore, maybe even more so than anyone else we've taken. But the more that I watched him, the more impressed that I was with his kind of raw ability. And he came through in those big games where Oklahoma State had to put up a ton of points to compete with Texas and Oklahoma. And yeah, they're not great defenses like any are in the Big 12. But I thought that Tylan Wallace was such a sharp kind of route runner. I really liked how he got out of his breaks. Like he was fulling cornerbacks left and right and seemed to always be open. Used his hands really well. Someone I didn't even notice his freshman year this year I thought was absolutely dominant. So I think he's going to take a step forward, and I'm excited to see what he does this year. But someone with, I think, big potential to maybe even be the wide receiver 2 or 3 in that 2020 class.
Nice, I like that. You're surprising me, Shane. I like this. You're kind of
no cookie cutter here.
Andy, you've mentioned Tylan before. I know you love him too, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, he talked about not noticing him his freshman year. That he played 5 games and had 7 catches. So I mean, for him to come back, and I had to pull him up because I remember his stats were insane. 86 catches, he was 9 yards short of 1,500 yards and 12 touchdowns. So, and he even ran one in himself. So, Tylan Wallace, especially in an Oklahoma State offense, the receivers stick out there. So, I definitely think he's the next one to come along that line that you have Des Bryant, James Washington, and so on. Justin Blackman, obviously, but he never panned out. So we'll just talk about the other 2.
Exactly. All right, Andrew, that leaves you up at 203.
I think I'm going to throw a shock pick out. And I'm going to go with the 2020 running back that you don't have on the list here. But I liked him a lot, and I was kind of surprised that he went back to school. But Keyshawn Vaughn, the senior running back out of Vanderbilt, I really like how he is as a pass catcher. Vanderbilt kind of with there's – oh, my gosh, lost my train of thought. Vanderbilt is always –
I can edit, don't worry.
You're good. Vanderbilt is slowly building a very solid program. Derek Mason, their coach, who fought Dan Mullen famously last year, they've put together a very good defense the last couple of years. But with Jared Pickney and now Keyshawn Vaughn there, I think Keyshawn Vaughn projects very well. I don't think he'll be talked about with these names like the Taylors, the Swifts, the ETNs, but I think he's going to be, like you talked about, Shane, one of those running backs that goes in round 3 or 4 that you, when they go to that landing spot, can kind of have that Kareem Hunt type rise if given the right landing spot.
Wow, you really surprised me there. That's a guy who I hadn't heard a whole lot about until I talked to Travis May on that a couple, some odd episodes ago, and he gushed about Vanderbilt's offense. And yeah, I like that. You guys are really throwing some names out there. I like it.
Yeah, I think it's an intriguing pick. He's a player I didn't have on my list. I was doing that kind of 7-round 2020 draft and trying to get these like 6th, 7th rounders, right? And I watched him and had him kind of low on the list, and I was like, oh my gosh, like why is this guy? Why do I have him in 6th, 7th round? Like this guy's legitimate, and I moved him well up. I think you're right. It's just someone I don't know. I just never noticed before, and transferring into Vanderbilt is a really interesting situation. But he definitely picked up that offense with relative ease, which also excites me too. When you see a player kind of step in, learn that offense pretty quickly. So I'm excited to see what he does this year, because I feel like he's a player that could go either way, like a Cam Akers, like a Tylan Wallace. In the 2nd round, we're taking guys, and Benjamin even. Is he going to keep it up? Is he going to do better? And then we do start talking about him with those top backs, or is he going to kind of come back to earth? And I think it could go either way for Vaughn. So I'd like the pick. I think it's good.
Yeah. Very good, guys. And actually, that leaves me up at 204. At 204, I'm going to take a name that I think should have came out this year, but because he's going to be in 2020, I will go with Tyler Johnson, wide receiver from Minnesota. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of brain fart here.
Not as bad as mine.
Huh?
Can't be as bad as
Ugh, just brain farting like crazy here. Okay, he's a guy I was really shocked that he came out. I didn't think that he was going to I didn't think he has anything to accomplish by going back to school, so I was kind of surprised. The ideal build for one of the, like a typical X receiver, makes a lot of really amazing catches, great downfield. Came from the same offense that Corey Davis did, except for Minnesota. So don't hold that against him, though. You see a lot of similarities in their game, though. They're both, the guys that just get the ball. They just go up and get the ball. I like to just a lot about him, and like I said, very surprised he came back for school, and I would gladly take him at 204. He's a guy that could sneak up into first round consideration next year as well with another strong year. So what do you guys think of Tyler Johnson?
Minnesota offense is going to be super interesting next year. Right? Like, I think they have some really good players there, and so maybe that's a reason for him coming back. I mean, Muhammad Ibrahim as well is a running back, kind of later round guy that I think could rise up. But I mean, Johnson was. You knew the ball was going to him, right? That was a big thing. And then you watch him, and he's still open, which I wouldn't expect to happen when teams know that the ball's coming your way on a Minnesota offense. So I'm pretty excited to see what he does. And I thought he tore up some legitimate NFL corners in the Big Ten last year. And to me, that's maybe the highest praise you can have. You're beating guys that are going to be playing on Sundays, like what you are too.
Right. I think that's where I kind of got the comp to Corey Davis. Is Corey Davis did the same thing. Like, you knew that he was getting the ball and he would be bracketed by two cornerbacks. Yeah, they were lower level competition, but still, he would still find a way to get the ball. And you definitely see that alpha dog mentality in Tyler Johnson. So, Andrew, you got anything to add?
No, I just think it's fun to have college football where you're taking a Vanderbilt running back and a Minnesota wide receiver in the second round of a rookie mock. So, I mean, coaches and everybody are really expanding there. So it's fun just to see offenses kind of exploding. And as much as you love defense, Dwight, I'm okay with it kind of going by the wayside at times.
Right. That's what everybody pays for anyway. So, all right, Shane, that puts you on the clock at 205.
I'm going to take Guy another kind of projection to improve. And the last running back I have above this entire 2019 class, I'm going to take J.K. Dobbins, running back from Ohio State. And he definitely took a step back last year. I thought Mike Weber outplayed him in a ton of games last season. But just like Cam Akers, I feel like things are going to come through. And I think especially with Justin Fields there, I think we're going to see even more. Dwayne Haskins, he's not mobile. He doesn't move around. And so I thought teams were, before they kind of knew what Haskins could do, were stacking the box and taking Dobbins out, and even continued to do that. I don't think he's going to see that this year. And I think we'll see more of those 2017 kind of numbers where he was reminiscent to me of Ezekiel Elliott at times as a freshman. As a sophomore, he didn't look like that at all. So it's another kind of projection. Is this guy going to improve? Maybe he gets beat out, and doesn't get drafted at all. It could happen. So a little bit risky, but I think in the mid-second round, this is the time to take someone that has talent, that's at a big-time school, that is going to have a really good rushing offense next year.
Right. Well, hold on. Haskins isn't mobile, not according to Stephen A. Come on, man.
Well, yeah. Thanks, yeah. Stephen A. Smith. I'm glad you're getting paid the big bucks for this.
Highest paid analyst at ESPN. Anyways, Andy, you got anything to add about JK?
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember my boss a couple years ago was a giant Ohio State fan from Columbus and everything, and he told me there was this running back to watch not last season, but the year before. He was going to be a true freshman. He was going to start. He's like, watch, he's just going to tear it up. And 29 rushing attempts, 181 yards later, J.K. Dobbins was on the scene for everybody. And that kind of set the expectations for everyone, like a lot of incoming freshmen and rookies in the NFL. You have that one big game, and then you're like, okay, this is what I expect. But like you said, Mike Weber really did outplay him. I'm glad Mike Weber did, just because he's in the draft this year, and I think he's going to be a good late round running back. Not in discussion with these first 2 rounds, but I think Dobbins will bounce back, especially with Justin Fields. Like you talked about, Fields has that dual threat capability. So, no, I was hoping Dobbins would fall to me, but when we discovered Shane was an Ohio State fan beforehand, I knew I was playing with fire there.
I will get that right.
All right, 206, Andrew.
Well, it was J.K. Dobbins, but
Man, you know you want to take him.
I'm going to take Deebo Samuel.
Yes, Deebo.
Deebo's my wide receiver 1. I'm going to have my rankings out here in the next week, like a little updated thing, nothing like a whole new article. Just a couple of little changes I've made, but I think Deebo is the closest thing to the complete package and being pro ready in this draft for the receivers. We've talked about how everyone's kind of a scheme fit and a landing spot, but I think Deebo can go to a couple different places and be productive as a wide receiver too. I don't think he's going to come in and be a 1 anywhere, but like a lot of places I've seen him mocked are like New Orleans and San Francisco, places like there, I think he would thrive. Give an example just for him going to San Francisco. I think he'd fit that Pierre Garçon spot perfectly. And he's versatile enough that I think Kyle Shanahan would have a blast with him. The same could be said for Sean Payton and so many other landing spots. So I think Deebo is going to make an impact year 1, which I don't think a lot of these receivers will. So that's why I'm going to hang my hat on and my credibility at times on Deebo Samuel in this draft.
Yeah, Shane, if you haven't listened to us before, Andrew has a man crush, a bromance with Deebo Samuel.
I heard the man's voice out of Mobile, and I was just hooked.
No, I think it's about where he should go, and I think you could take, maybe 4 or 5 different receivers at this spot. I think Samuel maybe has that dynamic ability, and probably what you love about him is he does have that upside. I think outside of a Harry or a Metcalf who have already gone, Samuel probably has the biggest upside of any receiver left to take in this 2019 class, because he can just flat out score touchdowns in a lot of different ways. Like we've talked about, I think teams has to use him well. If you're going to go out there and use him traditionally, I think you're going to be in a lot of trouble and he's going to disappoint you. But I think if he goes to a place where, there is some creativity in the offense where you can move him around and get him open, I think you can do a lot of damage.
Yeah, like it. All right, 207, I'm going to take the last guy that I will probably take from the 2020 class, Brian Edwards from South Carolina. Another guy that I think could sneak up there as well. And, he doesn't get the press that Judy and Chenault and the other guys do in the 2020 class, but there are times where he looks like the next best thing at wide receiver. He's got the size, the length, strength. His body control's crazy good. He's a very good route runner. He catches the ball with his hands. He does a lot of things that you really like. Stuck in an offense in South Carolina, unfortunately, it doesn't, really feature him as well as they could. Playing in the SEC, obviously, he sees a lot of high talent, cornerbacks as well. But just so many things that you really like. And he's a guy that I think if he puts up a really huge year, could crawl right up there with Judy and Chenault. And some people even have him ranked that high. I've seen him as the wide receiver 1 for 2020 in several places. So to get him at 207, I really like that spot.
He's intriguing. Like you said, I think the body control is really good, and I think he's flexible. I wonder about the athletic ability, kind of deep speed ability. I have trouble placing it, and so that worries me a little bit, and probably why I have him a little bit lower in this 2020 class. But I think Brian Edwards is a good example of why the 2020 receiver class, as much as the 2019 one is hyped up, why it's just as good and probably better, right? Because I think Brian Edwards fits with Deebo Samuel and fits with N'Keal Harry and DK Metcalf, right? Is kind of on that level. And I mean, how many receivers have we taken from the 2020 class already, right? So I think your points are well taken, and it shows really why people are going out and getting 2020 rookie picks in dynasty leagues. Like this is it. This is why.
Right. I considered a couple guys from the 18 class here at wide receiver too, but I don't know. Just can't do it, man. Shane, you're on the clock at 208.
I'll pull the trigger on one of those 18 receivers, and honestly, it's kind of tough of which one. But I think I'm going to take DJ Moore for the Panthers. I just think upside wise, he still has the highest. I mean, 788 yards as a rookie. Kind of didn't get on the field for a little while. I still thought he flashed that first round receiver talent ability. Maybe some of the others, I won't mention them, but maybe some of the others that might get taken here in the next couple picks have a little safer. But I think DJ Moore still has dynamic ability. I'm scared for the Panthers. Like, I just don't know if they're going to pass enough to make him really worth it. But I think he can be a big time threat. So I still have some DJ Moore fandom in me, and I'll happily take him this late.
Right. The Panthers offense is what does it for me. Just scared. We actually were, I was talking in the DLF chat earlier about this, where someone brought up trading DJ Moore for Devontae Freeman and Doug Baldwin. And I'm like, hell yeah, I'd trade him for them. But everybody else was on the DJ Moore side. I was like, really? So I don't know. I worry about that offense, and he wasn't my wide receiver one last year, but I definitely see the talent. So Andrew.
Yeah, no, I mean, DJ Moore, I think receivers always take a little bit to get going in the NFL. I think Moore in the second year with Cam, I mean, if Kelvin Benjamin can produce quality fantasy numbers for a year or two with him, you would hope DJ Moore can. So I'm excited to see what type of jump he takes in year two.
Right. Andrew, you're on the clock for 2:09.
Come
on.
It's almost like you know me so well.
No.
I think I'm going to take the flyer on Josh Jacobs here. I think Jacobs, this is perfect for him, I think. We've all talked about Jacobs. Everyone's talked about Jacobs. I've got nothing more to add a week before the draft. But as far as the fantasy value goes, I think obviously in rookie drafts this year, he's going to be a top 3 pick, probably top 5. But when you have these two classes combined, I think this is kind of the sweet spot for Jacobs down the second half of the round 2, just because there are still a lot of question marks with him. And if he's going to be able to do this when he's the guy, not splitting up the carries between the Harris non-related brothers down in Alabama.
Right. So what is your take on Jacobs, Shane? I really haven't heard you say much about him.
I have trouble with him, and I think it's for the reasons why a lot of people do, right? Because he's splitting carries, and my thing with Jacobs and with this class, right? Like, we like to see in college a workhorse back, and then you feel comfortable because you've seen him kind of do it. And most of these Alabama running backs that have happened in the past, that's what it's been. And Josh Jacobs isn't that player, right? When he's third on his team in rushing yards this season, it's a little bit scary. And so I just really don't know what to expect with him. And I think that unknown really scares me. Like, we obviously saw on the national stage a big dynamic game from him in the national championship and the playoff game before it. So I think that shows you what his talent looks like, especially catching the ball. So I do think he's going to get utilized. I think it's a fine spot. I just wonder what his upside, if he's ever going to hit that upside. He could, but I'm just hesitant. He's not my number 1 running back in this class. I think he could end up the best running back in this class. Then can I ask you guys, do you think he's going to go in the first round in the NFL draft? Because I don't think it's a guarantee by any means.
I think go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Dwight.
I think when the Eagles got Howard, that kind of took him out of first round consideration. For me, I think the Raiders could still be in play for him, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him fall. That's for sure.
Yeah, and another thing we always talk about on the show too, Shane, is on Stick to Football this week, they did their 32 rumors, and they were talking about the 3 Raiders picks and how they heard Jacobs is going to be one of the leading candidates for that 24, that 27 pick. So if it's not Oakland, I don't think it's Philly anymore since they got Jordan Howard. After that, I think Jacobs can kind of have a little bit of a free fall. So I don't know where he'll fall to. It's after the first round, you're kind of just playing with fire if you already have him on your rookie drafts. But just to pose a question to you, Shane, that I was posed on a show I did a week or 2 ago. I can't remember. Again, everything's blending together. you talked about him kind of being that third leading rusher on the team. Do you factor in that you had guys like Najee Harris and Damian Harris ahead of him, or should he have, if he's this good, should he have just earned that job and kept it from those other two guys?
Look, I don't think you take it away from him that he wasn't a workhorse back, but he should be able to beat those two guys, right? I think he should have been able to do more. He had more carries than Najee Harris did, and he scored more touchdowns, which is big and important for us. But I feel like that they probably would have used him more, and not even just this year, but I think you go back to, even to last season. He and I've taken him in Devy leagues, but he was a player last year. I thought he should be getting more touches, and he ends up third on the list again. So it's kind of weird to me, and it does give me pause. Not that he wasn't a workhorse, but come on, man, you couldn't beat out a sophomore Najee Harris. I don't like Damian Harris very much. Like you couldn't do more with that. It does have me a little bit skeptical.
I told the show I was on, I said I mentioned everything that I said as far as you got the other 5-star guys there, but I said at the end of the day, this is the same coaching staff that couldn't decide between Hurts and Tua, so we got to do what we can when it comes to that.
Right. All right, 210. I'm going to go a little crazy here. Like I said, the wide receivers for this year are so dependent on spots, so I'm going to go straight off talent. I'm going to take TJ Hawkinson here. Oh, it's probably a little crazy to take a tight end. I don't know if either of you guys were even considering that at this point. So
my last pick. So thank you.
Maybe I'm a little reaching a little bit, but I think he's going to be that good in the NFL. And I think we're starving beyond the big 3 tight ends. We really need some decent starting wide receiver or tight end ones. And I think Hawkinson and his Iowa guy, the other guy, are going to be a couple in the NFL for a long time. So at a position where there isn't a lot of talent, I definitely will take TJ Hawkinson here at 210. So, Shane?
I like the pick. Like the reason why I haven't actually considered him with my last pick, and had him pretty high up my list, but I was like, am I really going to, in a non-tight end premium, am I really going to take him over some of these receivers and running backs? And I probably just won't do that. But he's going to go super high. I think he's phenomenal. I think both these Iowa tight ends are phenomenal and going to produce. It's still going to take a couple years, as it usually does with tight ends. I don't think he's going to come in and be Rob Gronkowski or Jeremy Shockey or anything like that. But I think he can catch some touchdowns year 1, learn the NFL system. And I think by year 3, I think both these guys are going to be studs.
Right. Yeah, probably reached a little bit, but got to talk about him. It's in our contract. You have to talk about the tight ends every show. Shane, that puts you on the clock at 211.
I guess I have to come away from this draft with some 2019 player, right? Is that kind of required too? Sure. I'll take AJ Brown here. He's my wide receiver 1. I'm not super comfortable with that. Once again, I think he's my wide receiver 1 is a safer play than in N'Keal Harry or DK Metcalf, or anyone else that we talked about. Like I think AJ Brown won't be a superstar, but I think he's going to catch a lot of passes. I think once again, got to end up in the right spot. You need a team that's going to play him in the slot and know how to get him in open space so he can catch balls. But I think he's such a reliable pass catcher in a PPR league. I think AJ Brown could be catching upwards of 80, 90 balls a year. And to me, that's well worth it.
Right. Just real quick. Who is your running back 1 for this year then?
Really, it's kind of off the wall, but Miles Sanders is my running back 1. I think if I was watching in a vacuum, I think he's the most talented running back in the class. I'm not like super confident that he's going to be a stud or anything, but I think I'll take my chances.
Isn't 2020 going to be so nice?
I literally am in a dynasty league where I won 2 years ago. My team is the worst in the league now because I have 7 2020 picks, and I plan on winning the league in 2020. So
it does make you do dumb things, like knowing what's coming down the pipeline. Sometimes knowing Devy ahead is not a good thing. I tell you. All right. Yeah, that's a good pick. I like that. There's a lot of people coming around on Sanders, so I like it. I want to point out that I called that out quite a while ago. Anyways, Andrew, you got the final pick, 212.
Yeah, I think the Mr. Irrelevant here in this draft, I've got 3 names in my head. And I think I'm just going to go with what I think would be the safest pick here. And I'm just going to go with Noah Fant. For the record, I was debating between CeeDee Lamb and David Montgomery here. But my top 2 players graded in this draft offensively, not necessarily fantasy-wise, but were Hawkinson and Fant. And on my grading scale, they are separated by less than half a point. So I think Fant's going to come in, and I don't see him being your traditional tight end. I don't think he's going to be like Gronk and really be used at the line a whole lot. I think he's going to kind of be put in the slot at times. I think he's going to be used outside. He might line up on the line every once in a while, but I think Fant's going to be one of these newer style tight ends, kind of like an Evan Ingram type, which could make him a fantasy producer in year 1.
Right. Yeah, if he lands on the right team. There's the dogs. They almost made it through a whole episode.
I hate the dogs.
Right. I absolutely love Fant. Just as a weapon, and if he falls on the right team, wow, it'd be a lot of fun. Shane, anything to add on Noah?
Like I mentioned before, I think he's going to be great, and I'm excited. If you could have gotten Evan Ingram at 212, I think everyone would take that in spades. So if he does end up that way, I agree with you. I think being used like that, both you guys, I think he's going to be really good, and it's just about positional value. So I'm actually really interested to see in rookie drafts coming up, after the draft, where are these 2 tight ends going to go? Because I think if a lot of people don't like where the wide receivers end up or don't like where the running backs end up, it wouldn't surprise me to see them taken at 1.5, 1.6 even.
Right. Shane, if you had another 1 or 2 picks, who would you take?
My top running back left was Kerryon Johnson. I didn't like him a ton as a prospect, but seeing what he did in Detroit, I think they're going to keep running the ball. I was like, I'll take a chance on that. And Henry Ruggs, from the wide receiver from Alabama, I think is just because of Judy is getting really underplayed. This is a legitimate 4.3 speed player. Like, I mean, we're talking about Marquise Brown going to be the only receiver going in the first round. Like Henry Ruggs, if he runs a 4.32, 4.35, like he's going to go in the top 50. And if you can get that at the end of round 2, like I would have taken it gladly.
Yeah, there was people at the Alabama Junior Day that had him in the 4.2s. So I definitely think he's going to be one that he's being overlooked, but at the back end here, I think that'd be another good spot. I like that name.
You had 2 more, Andrew. Any guys that you kind of
thought
about?
I kind of alluded to him on David Montgomery and then CeeDee Lamb. I in our Stick to Football Hall of Fame chat, I said the other day to Mason Whitlock, who's the residential Oklahoma fan, I said, Marquise Brown, because he was talking about how he deserves to be in the first. I said, Marquise Brown wasn't even the best receiver on his team last year, I thought. I like CeeDee Lamb way more than I do Marquise Brown. So, but you always got to be careful with the Oklahoma receivers. So they're definitely one where I still think that whole system scare still fits with them until they can prove it otherwise. But I really like CeeDee Lamb next year.
Right. Yeah, another name I had was where'd he go? Oh, brain fart. Another name I had was Calvin Ridley. I kind of considered him there at my last pick. And yeah, I don't know. There's a couple other guys I thought a little bit about. I'm drawing a blank. Sorry, guys. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Anthony Miller, of course. Anthony Miller is my boy. But I fought taking him at like 103. No, kidding. That's my hashtag brand, baby. Anyways. All right. Do you guys have any thought if this was super flex? I mean, I know this we're running right toward the end here, but I kind of want to talk about super flex real quick. Like, where would you guys have thrown the quarterbacks in there? I had Baker at 4. He was my first quarterback I would have taken. Or 3, sorry. What do you guys think about some of the other quarterbacks? Where do you think they would have went?
Yeah, I mean, I probably would have taken Baker at 2. I think after Barkley, I think Tua, as you kind of said before, it would be right up there. I'd probably put Kyler Murray just for the potential factor to maybe mid to late first, and then the other guys I probably would consider Herbert and possibly taking him. After that, I don't know if there's any maybe late 2, maybe, but I think that's about it.
Right, Andrew.
Yeah, I would have had Baker at 2. I would have had Tua probably at 5, and then Herbert and Kyler probably at that turn at the end of the 1, right around the 2. Herbert still technically is fantastic, has a great arm, but I just can't get over the stories from when he was younger, crying in the huddle at times, and that just kind of makes me nervous, because if he does that in an NFL huddle, I just think they need him alive. But obviously, you grow and you mature, and not saying he can't obviously hold it on over him. Obviously, Derek Carr does it, and he's doing just fine. So,
right, I ended up with Baker at, like I said, 3, Tua at 4. I put Kyler at 9. I actually put Darnold at 12. Fromm at 13. I had Eason at 17. A couple guys I would think about, but I don't know. So just kind of spitballing. So yeah, so that concludes. That was kind of fun, guys. Thanks for that, Shane. Thank you. You brought some really different takes, some guys that kind of in positions that I didn't really think of. So that's all. Just wanted to make it kind of a thought exercise, because we get those questions a lot. So it's kind of fun to do a different type of mock draft instead of just the normal one that everybody's doing 10 of a week right now. So.
And I think it's about, playing chess when maybe some of your other league mates are playing checkers, right? Like I think sometimes in more traditional dynasty leagues, if you're ahead of the game on these players, you can make better decisions right now. I think even in Devy, I play in a lot of Devy leagues where I don't want to say people are they're not dumb or anything, but it's a lot easier to kind of put off next year until next year, right? Until you have to draft. And if you know who you can target, where they're going, I think you can make moves in these drafts and just do really well. So I think it's a really cool thought exercise. I appreciate you guys having me on, because it was fun for me to do and try to go through my own mind of where I am with these players, and I really enjoyed it.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of one of the things that we're the Devy owners manual. We want to try to focus on strategy. And this is an exercise in strategy, like Shane said. You kind of know the landscape of your team. If you've got, guys like Roethlisberger and Brady, you want to start positioning for these 2020 quarterbacks. Or, if your wide receivers are getting thin and old, you want to position yourself, for certain things. So there's always, like you said, there's always a game within the game of positioning yourself and getting your team ready for the long haul. So, yep. All right, real quick, Shane, you want to tell everybody where they can find you and what you're working on right now?
You can go to fakepigskin.com. I write for them. I'll probably have my final, like everyone else, my top 100 and final mock draft up there before the time comes next week. And then draftsite.com is where we're doing a lot of the future stuff. So I write Devy articles over Fake Pigskin, definitely over the summer, kind of pre-college season. I'll be doing a lot of guys to look out for. Dwayne Haskins, Emmanuel Hall, we're on my kind of preseason list over there. So it's a couple guys that I hit on that I think will be working out. So I hope to do it again this year.
All right. Thank you, Shane.
Yeah, thank you, Shane.
All right, Andrew, tell us where you can find your work.
I've got a Broncos 7-round mock dropping tomorrow. Well, I guess today at the Scorecrow. You can find it there along with a couple other 7-round mocks I've done and others have done. Got a couple more rankings I'll be dropping on Twitter. You can find me there at Mandrew NFL Draft. And then one last thing I did tell, well, Shane doesn't know about it because we've had other things fall through, but I did say I had a surprise for the show. And we talked about how we're part of the DLF network. And Dwight, I reached out to Jake Anderson, and I'm tired of looking at Josh Allen. So I just dropped in our group chat, I got you a new Twitter avatar made. And I figured this is perfect considering the 2020, what we're doing. I got your boy ETN made up for you. Got the DLF, got the Devy Owners Manual on there. So congrats on getting on the DLF. I know you're really excited about that.
Thanks, man. That's awesome. All right. Thank you. That's cool. We talked about an avatar a couple weeks ago, but then I just kind of let it go. So anyways, all right, cool. And like he said, I can find my writing at DLF on mainly right defensive players there. So if you like the IDP, that's where I'm at there. You can find me on FF People's Champ on Twitter. And yeah, that's it, man. We bring you lots of coverage coming up the next couple weeks about the draft. Obviously, we got a little more than 5 rounds left of this crazy ass Devy draft. Shane and I are in, so that's be the next couple weeks. You can find this podcast at Devy Manual on Twitter, or you can email us devyownersmanual@gmail.com if you have any questions. And we look forward to talking to you guys a ton the next couple weeks. Let's get this draft. No more mock drafts. Real draft time, baby. All right. Talk to you guys next week. Whew. That was, I think, that was our longest episode, I think, by far.
Sorry.
I haven't got a text from my wife in a while. I got one.